Kaypacha with the weekly Pele report for Wednesday, May 21st of 2025. And there we have the three wise men. They're just being very still and contemplating the universe. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. What a week we have in store for us. Wow. It's almost like a break in the storm. Very beautiful, powerful aspects happening this week. Let's look at them in particular. So today, first of all, right, the sun goes into Gemini. Well, it was actually yesterday. I'm doing this a day early because I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm leaving the beautiful Machuca River here tomorrow. So actually today is Tuesday for me. But by the time you get this report, the sun will be in Gemini. And by Sunday, Mercury will be in Gemini. So there's like coming out of the earthly cave of Taurus into the airy sense of Gemini. I'm going to talk more about that. On Thursday, Venus comes into a trine with Mars, from fire to fire, Aries to Leo. And that trine is just really building, sustaining, clarifying, opening. It's just fantastic. Another trine, Sun trines Pluto on Saturday. Very beautiful aspect. And then by next Tuesday, Mercury trines Pluto. I mean, we're talking trine after trine after trine. Oh, wow. I'm going to be talking about that a little more today, all right? And in addition to that, not only is Mercury moving into Gemini, but just like the sun went through that last degree of Taurus, I call it the last chance degree, Mercury is going to go through that last chance degree and bump right into Uranus. Mercury conjunct Uranus on Saturday. Sun trine Pluto on Saturday. And Saturn changing signs after 2.5 years, 3 years in Pisces. We have Saturn entering Aries for the first time in like 28, 29 years. What were you doing back in the mid to late 90s? Closing that cycle. Very powerful. I want to talk about that. I could be talking for a long time here. Oh my word. So yeah. And as you can see in the chart, Chiron is exactly conjunct Eris, okay, on next Monday. But let's just take a little look at the moon. She is waning, getting smaller, letting go, breaking free through this week. She's in Pisces Wednesday, moves into Aries on Thursday, and comes into a conjunction with Saturn and Neptune, squares Jupiter, Kaplawi, moves on through Aries into Taurus on Saturday. Yeah? So she's closing up shop, and by Monday, right, she has moved into Gemini, and we will have a new moon on Monday at 6 degrees, 6 minutes of Gemini. I will read you the Sabian symbol for that. Let me look at the camera and talk at you. All right, everybody, let's talk some astrology. Woo-wee! Make some sense out of this altered reality. Oh, wow. What a time to be alive. What a time to be living. Everything is changing. It is the big let go, isn't it? So Saturn moving into Aries. Let's start there. Whoosh. Okay, even has to do a little bit with today's mantra. Okay, Pisces is the sign of dreams and infinite potential. and illusions and multidimensional realities that may be more, how can I say, not only accessible, but also maybe more desirable than the third dimension. Okay, so, it's been 3 years or so of, really looking at our lives, at our illusions, at our dreams, and now into Aries for a little while. Let's get a sense here, okay, that, it's going to come up, and July 13th, exactly join together within minutes of Neptune. And then they're both going to go retrograde back into Pisces. So this ain't over yet, okay? And then they come back again in February of 2026. So we're at the beginning of like a 9-month pregnancy. I always look at Saturn transits. Okay, as the seed is being sown now, the dream can be dreamt. But the metaphor that I'd like to use is, I don't know if you've ever gone sailing out on the open sea and gone away from land, and you're out surrounded with water, and you could be anywhere on planet Earth. And you've got big swells, you've got big waves, and then you come along and you come up to the top of a wave and you spot land. And then you go down in the swell and that land disappears and you're back surrounded with water. Don't know where you are, what's up, what's down, north, south, east, west. And then you come up on the swell again and you see that land again. So this is a time, I would say, where Saturn goes into Aries and we come up on the top of the swell, and this is the week. Mercury conjunct Uranus, Venus trine Mars, Sun trine Pluto. So many things can become clear. And we can spot that distant shore. Saturn is goals, contracts, commitments. It's time to break the old, make some new ones, and really step in. What is Aries? Myself. So Saturn is take responsibility for myself. It's time to step up. Yeah, step into that office, step into those big shoes. It's going to be there for 2.5 years. So this is a process, right, of maturing in very, very many ways. So that's one thing. That's that's like this big energy that's happening now. And I also want to just kind of look at this Sun Mercury shifting from Taurus into Gemini, from earth to air, from fixed to mutable, and bumping into Uranus on the way, crossing that threshold, and trining Pluto. Wow, right? So now this is what we call the first, the 120 degree trine. And I go back to Mercury was conjunct Pluto, January 29th. The Sun was conjunct Pluto, okay, in late January. So this Mercury-Sun energy, okay, happening there with Pluto is back at that time. Pluto calls for deep revelation, revealing of secrets, of what is underlying needs. And it's a transformation of thinking and the need to vocalize and communicate. In the sign of Aquarius, okay, like revolutionary new ideas coming through, new seeds of absolute, new ways moving. And Aquarius has to do with the unknown, whether it's technology, the future, outer space, collective consciousness. This is really moving into very great, deep, wide waters. And Pluto, like a volcano with Sun and Mercury, brings up, okay, so many ideas. And now, months later, the 120-degree trine is like the peak, like the greatest creative expression, the greatest opportunity to share, to be authentic, to be transparent, to like really shine the light, and, in a place of support, in a place, okay, where, we're really being held by the divine during this week, during this time. And I find it, very interesting that first, Mercury hits Uranus, right, on Saturday. And then, Mercury Uranus, let's look at that. It's been a year since Mercury conjuncted Uranus. I always like to look at these conjunctions as like conferences. It's a little conference call. So, a year ago, Mercury came around Uranus and got some brilliant new flashes, inspiration, visualizations of the future, revolutionary new ideas or inventions. And then, it travels around and has a convention, a little conversation with Pluto in late January. Okay, let's transform those ideas, those visions, those future ideals, your relationships, your groups, your friends, your hopes and wishes and dreams. And then Mercury sets off from Pluto. It's like Mercury went down into the underworld in January. And Pluto said, okay, I want you to bring back this message. I want to bring this up from the underworld to the surface. Thank you very much, Mercury. And Mercury takes off and rises from the underworld of Pluto, goes through Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and then comes back and says, okay, Uranus, here's what Pluto had to say. Mercury is the great messenger of the gods, right? Weaving it all together. I mean, the moon weaves it all together every month. Mercury does it every year. So now, Mercury says, okay, in the meantime, Mercury crossed Saturn and Neptune and now Chiron, and comes around to Uranus with, wow, okay, here's what I've gathered from all the other gods and goddesses, right? What do you think, Uranus? And Uranus, at that final degree of Taurus, comes in with, it is time to liberate. It is time to open the third eye. It's time to connect dots that have not been connected before, to make constellations, to make pictures, to come into absolute clarity. Sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes the truth reveals deeper forms of beauty. But Uranus is about truth, revealing our own unconscious soul needs, to individuate, to be true to ourselves, not our illusions, our fantasies, our dreams, but our core truth. This is a time of profound revelation and communication. Because after Saturday, right, hitting Uranus, then Mercury and the Sun both go into Gemini, and Gemini wants to talk about it and share about it and write about it and go on social media about it, and let's really spread the word, network, Find like-minded souls. Start a community. Whatever it looks like for you. Get out of town. Hit the road. Depends on your dreams. Depends on your ideals. So let me get to these dreams, which has a little bit to do with the mantra. Yeah? You know, the mantra is, Joseph. It comes from the Bible. I'm talking about what they call the Holy Family. Joseph and Mary have this baby Jesus, yes, according to Scripture. And Joseph has a dream. And that dream says, you better get out of here. Hit the road. Herod and his armies are after you, man. Can you imagine just having a baby, having to pack up your stuff, put it in a satchel, and start walking? We're not talking about calling an Uber. We're not talking about jumping in your 4x4 and hitting the road for a vacation. We're talking about walking a long way. All the way to Egypt. Now maybe you have a dream. Maybe you have had a dream. And while Saturn has been in Pisces, you have been longing. You have been wanting to realize a new you, a new life. Maybe in a new place with a new job or a new partner. Maybe you have had this desire to open your crown chakra, right? And just be, return to source, return to spirit, return to innocence and simplicity. Whatever your dream, now Saturn comes out of that dream and it's time. Now, I'm not going to say it's time to jump on it right now. Like I say, this is still a time of gestation. But I think the important thing to remember, after maybe there's been some disillusionment, there's been some grief, there's been some loss over these last few years, to really still hold to that dream, to have hope, to believe in that dream, to believe that Spirit has your back. And why do I say that? Let me read to you the Sabian symbol for this new moon. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but we are supported by Spirit. A well with bucket and rope under the shade of majestic trees. God, I love these trees. I am going to miss these trees. Wow. Our primordial faith in the hidden, sustaining power of life. Kundalini, Chi, the life force is ever sustaining us. In contrast with the ambitious drive of modern humanity for power and wealth, we now have the image of the eternal search for that which is at the root of all living processes, i.e., water. This search also demands some effort. Raising the water-filled bucket? But it is a simple, natural effort under the shade of trees, which attest to the presence of the life-giving fluid. This presence depends on the cooperation of sky, rain, and earth, the geological formation able to hold the water. And we must develop the intuitive sense which enables us to feel this presence and to make it effectual in our daily life. We must sense the hidden reality which preserves for the use of all living organisms this gift of the sky, the bounteous rain. The rainy season has begun, man. It's freaking soaking around here. Everything is damp and sticky. But it's beautiful. At this stage of symbols, the power of the collective and bio-spiritual energies which sustain all earth-rooted cultures is stressed. In contrast to whatever the technological mind of humanity can make available to increase our personal comfort and mastery over matter. The symbol implies a fundamental trust in and cooperation with life. Yeah, baby. Woo! I know it ain't easy. You got to pay your dues if you want to sing the blues, and you know it don't come easy. That could be this week's song. It don't come easy, you know it don't come easy. Ringo, baby. The Beatles fell apart, everything falls apart. Everything separates from the source of creation and returns to the source of creation. And so much of this is a coming home to ourselves. Ourselves, Taurus and Aries, as spiritual beings. North node of the moon in Pisces. Let's not forget, Jupiter is still square the moon's nodes all week. Okay? And that I talked about last week. That is taking those stepping stones across the river, letting go, letting go, letting go, in order to lighten the load and move forward with your intrinsic, individual, unique, gifted soul. North Node in Pisces. Cabangos. Yeah? Now, Chiron conjunct Eris is going on all week. I would say all month, maybe 2 months. Building up May, lightening up a little bit in June. But this is healing energies of discord. Eris stirs up the pot, right? Leave no stone unturned. Scrape all that stuff off the bottom of the kettle and stir it into the soup. Don't leave anything out. Don't leave anything unhealed, unexposed. It's almost like in an operation or in a healing process, everything has to come up and out into the open in order to be released. The bacteria, the cancer, the viruses, whether it's surgery or the immune system or whatever, psychologically, our past traumas, they need to be, the light needs to be shed into the dark recesses of our soul. So it is a crisis, it is hard, but it is healing. So Sun, Mercury, trine Pluto, these can be some very deep conversations happening at the same time as what? Venus, Aphrodite, the divine feminine, right? Coming through Aries, asserting her needs and her nature, and really stepping up, empowered to say, look, this is what the feminine needs. This is what Gaia needs. This is, really the yin energy bringing forth, and asserting, what she finds attractive, what she values, what is truly beautiful about you. This is a time of like real discovery, and the trine to Mars in Leo. It's like the masculine and the feminine can link together here, and they can, Mars can help bring out more beauty, okay, and give her more strength. Mars could be the horse giving Venus the chariot, so that the two of them can charge out into the world and make something beautiful. And Venus can go, whoosh, whoosh, come on, and Mars says, yeah. It hurts so good. Zoom. Oh my goodness. No, the feminine can, also, right, empower the masculine, and give that masculine new inspiration, right? To like go get them, let's do this together. So this can be a very harmonious time in our relationships. And then at the same time, there's all this discord and this need to communicate. So this is what? Well, maybe our relationships have been operating, functioning at this frequency, right? And what does Uranus want to do? Bump it up. Uranus is always about raising the bar. It's like, yeah, it may be okay. It may not even be okay, but it could be better. And so we got to talk about this. We got to share about this. We got to love about this. We got to, but we're getting bumped up. And sometimes these bumps jar us. They can scare us. They can be very uncomfortable. This is where we have to believe in the sustaining power of life. And that, that yes, we will probably go down in another trough. Okay, but we'll and that land is there. And we'll lose sight of it, and we'll get, a new sight of it. And, it's going to be this kind of wave motion. Are you ready to ride the wave? From now until February, ay. You gotta pay your dues if you wanna sing the blues, and it don't come easy. Like Joseph waking up after his dream, knowing they had to go. I'm thankful for the guidance received. And will pack up and head down the road. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be happening like with a backpack or a suitcase, a car, train, or plane. This can be happening on a psychological level. This can be happening on a spiritual level. This can be happening on an emotional level. But it is saying primarily to, maybe you've been keeping a dream journal, okay? But this is a good time to keep track of those dreams, listen to those dreams, be thankful for those dreams, honor your own intuition, your own guidance. And it may go against what everybody advises. And doggone it, it's you and spirit on this road to love and enlightenment and evolution. So trust your dreams, trust your spirit, trust the force of life. It's all over, it's written all over the stars. Yeah, babe. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man. Woo! One more time. Yeah? Like Joseph waking up after his dream, knowing they had to go. I'm thankful for the guidance received, and will pack up and head down that road. May you take what is necessary, leave what is no longer necessary or needed, and have the courage to decide which is which, and head into the future guided by your own soul truth. God. No shortage of drama, man. Mars is in Leo, you know. Namaste. Aloha. So much love.